Imagine for a moment having the power to ask the universe for something and watch it slowly take shape right before your eyes. This isn't magic or secret spells. I'm talking about something far deeper, a truth Carl Jung uncovered after decades of exploring the mysteries of the human mind. What you're about to hear can completely change the way you desire and manifest what you want in life. Jung realized there's a right way and a very wrong way to reach out to the invisible. Most people ask from a place of fear, scarcity, or a wound that hasn't healed yet. They speak with a trembling voice, controlled by the ego and a tight heart. But there's another way, quiet and steady, born from the true spark of your being. When you communicate from that deep essence, connected to something greater, the universe responds. Not by magic, but because you create real resonance. Have you noticed how some people seem to get everything they want, while others carry the weight of frustration day after day? It's not luck or chance that it's about how those people relate to their own energy when they ask. Jung called this psychic alignment. And today, we're going to uncover this hidden key. Every time you ask for something and don't receive it, it's not because you were rejected. It's because there's noise between what your mind wants and what your soul truly needs. This is the first big revelation. The universe never stays silent. It always answers. But you have to learn its language. How many times have you screamed for something with all your strength, only to hear your plea disappear into emptiness? How many times has that emotional request seemed to go nowhere? Jung gave a surprising answer. The problem isn't what you ask for, but where you ask from. The unconscious is like an ocean of endless possibilities, but when you ask only from the surface, limited by fear and conscious mind boundaries, the wave doesn't have the power to dive deep. Only when you plunge into your shadows and reach the calm waters of your true self do you touch the source of real power. And that's when miracles happen. The truth is simple and revolutionary. The universe doesn't respond to the words you say, but to the vibration behind those words. Jung discovered that when your conscious mind, personal unconscious, and collective unconscious are in harmony, they create a bridge so powerful the universe can't ignore it. Our biggest mistake is asking desperately, in the frequency of "I don't have," begging as if we're unworthy. And without realizing it, we tell the universe, "I don't deserve it." Jung saw this pattern over and over and understood that those who manifest aren't the most hardworking or the purest. They're the ones who learn to embrace their light and shadow, aligning their ego with their true self. How do you achieve this alignment? It starts by understanding that what you seek already exists, not in form, but as potential. Jung called this pleroma, the field of all possibilities. Your job isn't to force what you want to appear. Your mission is to tune into its frequency and become an open channel. Before asking, Jung suggested a deep dive inside, an honest confrontation with your innermost layers. Often what we think we want is just an echo of our fears or conditioning. We ask for success, but really seek recognition. We ask for love, but deep down fear loneliness. When you ask from your essence, in harmony with your purpose, the universe conspires in your favor. Jung spoke of archetypes, living forces that shape our experiences. Each of us journeys guided by certain archetypes. Knowing which one is active is like learning the language of your destiny, that if the warrior beats within you, your request must carry the vibration of strength and action. If the lover dominates, your petition flows from the heart and emotional surrender. This archetypal awareness is a powerful ancient key, and there's something even subtler. Have you noticed how what you release without clinging tends to come back more easily? Jung called this conscious detachment, to desire without being chained to desire, to ask without begging, to seek without losing yourself. The act of asking is sacred. The moment you release control and your ego bows before your deeper self. In that genuine surrender, a space opens, a silent gap between the visible world and the field of possibilities. And it's there, in that gap where the miracle lives. Because the universe speaks a symbolic language, not a rational one. When you connect through symbols, archetypes, dreams, and active imagination, your request becomes a sacred ritual. The word becomes an offering, the desire a bridge between worlds. What truly blocks our requests isn't lack of faith or worthiness, it's internal incoherence. Jung taught that before asking, you must integrate your shadow. If part of you craves something but another part fears or rejects it, an energetic short circuit cancels the request. Jung also guarded a secret about the right timing to ask, the Kairos moment, a rare instant when your intention aligns with cosmic rhythms. He studied moon cycles, seasonal thresholds, moments of transition when the veil between visible and invisible thins. It's in these openings that the universe hears most clearly. Recognizing these portals is part of the true art of asking. And there's the almost forgotten practice of anticipatory gratitude. Jung noticed those who give thanks before receiving, feeling as if they already have what they desire, create an irresistible magnetic field. This isn't shallow optimism, it's deep wisdom. On a quantum level, everything already exists. Gratitude aligns you with this already. And here's something curious. When we ask without expectation, out of pure love, the universe often responds even faster. Jung explained that by asking selflessly, the ego steps aside, and in that sacred emptiness, universal love flows freely. It is in this state of surrender that we become authentic channels for manifestation. Carl Jung developed a practice he called the dialogue with the self. Before asking anything from the universe, he suggested we first have a conversation with our higher self, asking, does this desire truly resonate with my highest path? Only when the answer is clear, steady, and without hesitation should we move forward. This is more than simple introspection, it's deep listening. Jung also emphasized the power of rituals, not as superstition, but as a language of the soul. Rituals speak directly to the unconscious. When you create a ritual to ask for something simple but filled with intention, you awaken dormant archetypal forces within yourself. By doing this, you activate a symbolic field where the invisible can take form. But caution is necessary. Jung warned, never make requests from an inflated ego. If your asking comes from vanity, a desire to impress, or as an escape from your own pain, the universe doesn't deliver gifts, it sends lessons. Perhaps the most subtle and devastating obstacle is unconscious guilt. Many unknowingly sabotage their own desires because deep down, they don't feel worthy. Jung encountered this again and again. Healing begins when you acknowledge this guilt, embrace it, and transform it. When you do, doors to abundance begin to open. Another fascinating concept is active synchronicity. Jung taught that the universe says yes, but it replies through symbols and coincidences. Learning to recognize these signs is as crucial as making the request itself. Every synchronicity is a coded response, a confirmation that your petition was heard. That's why we must release control over how our desires will manifest. Often, we ask for money but receive an idea. We ask for love and are guided to heal old wounds. True wisdom lies in seeing the gift, even when it doesn't come in the form we expect. There's a core Jungian principle. What you resist persists, but what you embrace transforms. If you ask for something while rejecting your present reality, you block the flow of change. Total acceptance of the now is the foundation for all that is yet to come. Jung viewed dreams as messengers between worlds. Before sleeping, you can cast your request as a question to the unconscious. The dreams you receive might offer answers, guidance, or reveal what still needs healing before your desire can manifest. Have you ever wondered why some wishes come true almost instantly while others seem to take years? Jung had a clear explanation. Every desire has its own psychic gestation period. Some manifestations require you to grow first, to become someone capable of holding what you wish for. The universe doesn't deny your requests, it prepares you. There's also the transcendent function, the art of holding opposites, desire and detachment, hope and surrender. When this creative tension is consciously maintained, it opens a third way, an unexpected solution, a manifestation beyond previous options. Jung reminded us we aren't mere beggars before the cosmos. We are co-creators, dancing in a cosmic rhythm where every step, word, and intention carries weight and meaning. When you ask from this awareness, your vibration clears space, and the universe listens with precision. Jung said fear emits a frequency that repels exactly what we desire most. But here lies the secret that it's not about eradicating fear or silencing it by force. It's about welcoming, listening to, and transforming it. When integrated, fear turns into excitement, a vibrant pulse, a sacred anticipation. Becoming intimate with your own fear is like lighting a candle in the heart of darkness. Jung intuited something almost forgotten, the morphogenetic field of petitions. When many hearts ask in unison, they create an energy field that transcends individuals, a field that accelerates, amplifies, and eases manifestation. This is why asking for the greater good isn't just noble, it's effective. Collective desire creates synergy that moves the invisible gears. But desire alone is not enough. Clarity is essential. Jung saw that vague requests attract equally vague responses. This clarity is not mental but existential. When you connect with your deepest essence, when you truly know yourself, you also know what to ask for and how. Confusion is always a sign of disconnection from the self. There's something even subtler, the golden shadow. Jung spoke of these magnificent qualities we project onto others, admiration, power, genius, because we haven't yet recognized them within ourselves. When you ask for something you secretly believe you don't deserve, you reject your own light, handing your inner gold over to projection. Claiming this golden shadow is freedom to receive. And don't be mistaken, the body is an essential part of the request. The body knows. The body feels. When you ask with every cell, every heartbeat, with your belly, your heart, your bones, you emit an irresistible energetic coherence. It's the whole request, not a fragmented one. The universe responds to the whole, not the parts. Jung also reminded us the universe has a sense of humor. Yes, humor. Sometimes it answers with irony, with lightness, with a cosmic laugh. That's why lightness in asking is crucial. Don't take everything so seriously. Wisdom and playfulness, the truth in life's sacred game. Between the ego's desire and the soul's calling lies an abyss. The ego wants what shines, what's immediate, what validates. The soul seeks what is deep, eternal, transformative. When you learn to distinguish between the two, everything changes. You stop asking for distractions and start invoking what truly matters. Silence, that ancient teacher, is also part of the ritual. Jung sought long periods of silence before making his most profound requests, because it is in silence that the ego dissolves, and from that silence emerges the voice of the self. From this quiet place come the most powerful petitions. Jung also recognized the power of nature. Earth, fire, water, air, living mirrors of the unconscious. Asking by the sea, under the stars, beside an ancient tree reconnects your intention with primordial forces. It's allowing your voice to echo through the four elements and then waiting, watching time. Jung kept a journal, a sensitive but non-obsessive record of synchronicities, signs, whispers from the universe. Many answers have already come but went unnoticed. Observing is the invisible half of manifesting. Active patience is a forgotten art. It's not passive waiting, but holding the energy of the request, like holding a drawn bow ready to release. It's being alert, vibrant, alive. Dynamic trust, not resigned surrender. Have you noticed that when you let go of a desire, it starts moving toward you? Jung explained this through the principle of enantiodromia. Everything pushed to an extreme turns into its opposite. Desperate pursuit becomes resistance. Letting go becomes magnetism. Every petition, Jung said, is an initiation. Even if what you ask for doesn't arrive as expected, the conscious act of asking already transforms you. The clarity, the surrender, the facing of reality, all of this makes you more whole, more awake, more you. Forgiveness is a hidden portal to manifestation. Jung saw how guilt and resentment create psychic blockages. Before asking for something new, clear the field. Forgive yourself, forgive others. A light heart is more receptive. There are also invisible allies, forces that come near when your intention is pure. When you ask from love, from the greater good, the universe conspires in your favor. Angels, archetypes, living symbols, they all dance around your heartfelt request. You are never truly alone. Vulnerability, often feared, is actually the key. When you ask without masks, showing up whole, authentic, and true, your voice echoes directly into the soul of the world. The universe recognizes that truth. There's a sacred moment, a turning point, when your request shifts from mere wish to absolute certainty. When every fiber of your being knows it's already happening. That's when manifestation begins. A powerful vortex forms. Collective prayer, group meditation, shared intentions, all of these amplify, elevate, and transform because the energy of unity carries a strength no one can achieve alone. And then comes gratitude. Jung suggested ending every request with thankfulness, not just for what's coming, but for what already is. Gratitude closes the circle. It seals your request with love. Remember this, we are not supplicants begging for favors. We are awakened consciousnesses, co-creators of reality. When you ask with truth, with integrity, with beauty, the cosmos listens and responds. Remember, the universe is not a cold machine, nor a vending machine that grants desires at the push of a button. It's a living, sensitive, deeply aware organism. It doesn't respond to empty words, but to the silent coherence between what you feel, think, and are. It answers to the vibrant authenticity of your being, to alignment with your true purpose. And when that connection happens, everything changes. Jung shared one last, perhaps deepest teaching. The greatest gift isn't receiving what you ask for, but becoming the person capable of receiving it. Each request is a call, a portal of transformation. Don't ask just to possess, ask to grow. Ask to remember who you've always been beneath the world's masks. Now that these secrets rest in your hands, now that you understand the invisible art of asking, a new responsibility awakens. Use this knowledge wisely. Don't ask only for yourself, ask for the whole. Because when your request is born from love, when it benefits something greater than you, the universe gently bows and says, yes, this is your moment. The universe is listening, but it only understands one language, the language of your deepest truth, not cold words, but the warmth of your soul. From the place where your small self dissolves and merges with the infinite self. That's the language that moves stars. I invite you now to apply everything you've learned. Choose something you truly desire, not something the world demands, but something that resonates with your essence. Ask with clarity, with love, with detachment. Then watch carefully. Notice the synchronicities, the subtle signs, the quiet shifts as the universe begins to rearrange itself around you. If these words touched you, if you felt their truth, share this message. Someone near you might be asking from the wrong place, feeling tired, lost, disconnected from their own power. Be the bridge, be the echo of remembrance. And tell me, what will you ask for now, knowing all this? Write your experience, feelings, doubts in the comments. Let's build a space to learn together, support one another, grow with awareness. A place where the art of asking becomes a spiritual path. If you haven't yet, subscribe and hit the bell. Each week, we dive into Jung's deepest teachings and those of other great seekers. Every video is a key, a chance to return to yourself, to recall your ancestral power. Before you go, close your eyes for a moment. Breathe deeply. Feel the invisible presence that's always been there. From that silence, make your first conscious request. Let it be the start of a new way to relate with the universe, because you are not a beggar pleading for scraps. You are a co-creator, an infinite being experiencing the illusion of limits for a moment. When you ask from that memory, from that inner nobility, nothing, absolutely nothing, can be denied to you. Life is waiting for your voice. The universe is listening. All you have to do is ask with truth, release with trust, and allow existence's dance to surprise you. Thank you for being here, for being part of this community of awakened souls. See you in the next video. And never forget, the secret is not in the words themselves, but in the place from which they arise. When that place is your heart, in tune with the heart of the universe, miracles stop being exceptions and become your new reality. Perhaps the greatest miracle of all is realizing that you always had this power. It was just asleep beneath the layers of hurry, fear, and cold logic. Awakening begins the moment you dare to look within. When you see that the outside universe is only a reflection of your inner universe. Jung said every true movement starts in the soul. What you see outside is the echo of what vibrates in your deepest self. That's why when you ask the universe for something, the first step is turning inward, not to run from the world, but to return to the source. There, in the silence between one thought and the next, lies a truth that cannot be taught, only remembered. A power that cannot be gained, only awakened. And in that process, something magical happens. You begin to realize many of the desires you thought were essential were actually substitutes for something greater, the need for belonging, true love, meaning. When that truth surfaces, your request transforms. It's no longer about having, it's about being. No longer a desperate plea, but a declaration of presence and affirmation of your place in the world. This is where asking becomes prayer, not a submissive begging, but a radical trust, a conscious surrender, a communion with the whole. And that communion doesn't require you to be perfect, only authentic. Jung understood the unconscious doesn't respond to commands, it answers symbols, pure intentions, the silent gesture of someone who knows their own vulnerability and still chooses to trust. When you step into that space, the universe stops being a judge or a provider. The universe becomes a living mirror, reflecting back exactly what you carry inside. That's why every request you make must begin with a deep, loving look inward at your true intentions. Are you asking just to prove something to someone else? Trying to run away from yourself? Or is there a genuine part of you that wants to grow, express, and contribute? These questions are gateways, and crossing them takes real courage. The courage to stand bare before life and say, I am ready. Not because you have it all figured out, but because you're willing to be shaped, transformed, and guided by something greater than yourself. And here's the beautiful part. As you open up this way, signs start to appear everywhere, in a stranger's words, a dream, or a small, everyday moment. Life begins to speak your language, a symbolic, poetic language full of meaning. Jung called these moments synchronicities, meaningful coincidences that defy rational explanation but carry messages from the unseen world. When you ask consciously, these synchronicities show up more often, like the universe's way of whispering, keep going, you're on the right path. But there's something deeper few dare to face. The real request, the one that truly transforms, doesn't come from your mind. It's born from a sacred longing, a nostalgia for who you were before the world made you forget. Deep down, what you really want is to reconnect with that lost link between you and everything else. And when your request springs from this longing, it's always answered. Not because the universe wants to please you, but because you and the universe are, in truth, one and the same. What you ask for, you ask from yourself. What you expect from yourself. What you receive, you give yourself. This is the most beautiful discovery of all. You are not separate from the source, you are the source. Temporarily taking form as a body, a story, a personality, but at your core, the same energy, the same spark, the same mystery. So ask, but ask with an awake soul and an open mind, ready for the unknown. Prepare yourself, because what truly comes rarely arrives how you imagine. It comes bigger, deeper, with purpose. While you wait, trust. Trust the timing, trust the process, trust yourself. What you're asking for, love, clarity, purpose, healing, is already on its way. It's being shaped behind the scenes of reality, waiting for the perfect moment to appear. In the meantime, celebrate, give thanks, walk lightly, and help others remember their power too. Be the light where there is doubt. Be the bridge where there's separation. Be the voice where silence lives. Because in the end, every request is a prayer in disguise, every desire a soul's impulse to bloom. And every time you ask with truth, a new reality begins, not outside, but inside. And when your inner world changes, the outer world follows inevitably. This transformation doesn't happen all at once. It's like the sunrise, slow, quiet, unstoppable. First, a subtle warmth in your soul, then a fresh way of seeing the familiar. Gradually, everything aligns. Lost pieces fall into place, forgotten answers rise up, doors that seemed locked for centuries start to open. At this stage, asking is no longer about need. It becomes a gesture of communion. You ask not from lack, but from love, not to grasp, but to flow with life, to maturely accept what arrives, however it comes, whenever it comes. Jung knew the soul has its own rhythm and that great transformations cannot be rushed. He said the unconscious is like a deep, dark underground river, alive with life. If you try to force it, it pulls away. But if you approach with reverence, it reveals its secrets. So every request must come with that reverence, not submission, but recognition of the sacred in all things. And there will come a moment when doubt creeps in, the waiting feels endless, and silence stretches on. In those moments, remember, the universe hasn't forgotten you. It's preparing the ground, testing your faith, reflecting your consistency. What looks like absence is really gestation. Keep asking, not begging, but aligning, keeping your heart open even when no signs appear. The true test is to stay in love when everything seems to say no, to hold faith when reason screams otherwise, and still choose to trust. This choice is powerful. It changes everything. It creates a resonance that draws what is true. Because the universe doesn't respond to impatience, but to trust. Not to despair, but to surrender. Jung spoke of the alchemy of the soul, the mysterious process where wounds become gateways, failures become teachers, and desires purify into prayers. Requests born from this alchemy don't just seek to receive, they seek to be a channel, to be presence, to be love incarnate. And then something even deeper happens. You start wishing not just for yourself, but for others, for the world. You include the collective in your intention. At that moment, your energy expands beyond measure. You move beyond the individual sphere into the field of compassion. That's when the miracle becomes inevitable, because love cannot be owned. When you desire healing, peace, abundance not only for yourself but for all beings, you become an active part of universal consciousness. And that consciousness responds with abundance, grace, and mystery. Even if what you asked for doesn't arrive exactly as you imagined, something inside you will have changed, and that change alone is the greatest gift. Because it's not the fulfilled desire that transforms you, it's the journey to it. It's what you discover, who you become. So ask with courage, with surrender, with art. Ask with your whole body and a soul on fire. Then walk forward like someone who already knows the answer, who sees the response woven in life's subtle patterns. And if one day you forget all this, come back here. Read these words again. Reconnect with yourself. Because this wisdom is not mine or yours, it's ancestral. It's the echo of a truth that's always lived inside you and is only now awakening. See you soon. Until then, remember, you are more than someone who desires. You are the very energy of creation in motion. When you ask with your heart, the universe listens with its own. And in that meeting, everything changes. As you walk with a heart in tune and eyes wide open, you'll begin to see that asking consciously is no longer a single act but a continuous practice, living in dialogue with mystery. There is no separation anymore between what you want and what you live. Your whole life becomes a prayer in motion. Every gesture you make is a silent request, every choice an affirmation of what you believe you deserve. Every thought a seed planted in the invisible field of possibilities. In this state, time itself transforms. The past no longer imprisons you. The future loses its anxious weight. Everything focuses on the now, where true power lives. Jung said that the now is the intersection between the visible and the invisible. It's where yourself can emerge strongest, where the unconscious whispers clearest. It's in the now that you become a co-creator with life, not just a bystander, but an active part of the cosmic dance moving stars and destinies. So when you ask, don't disconnect from the present. Don't run from it. Use it. The moment you're living right now, with all its joys, pains, and contradictions, is the fertile ground for everything yet to come. Embrace it with respect. Don't wish to swap out your soil before planting your seeds. It's in the real, raw earth of your life that miracles take root. Then, often when you least expect it, the answer arrives, sometimes softly, like a whisper only your heart can hear. Other times, it crashes in like thunder, shaking everything up and pushing you to reinvent yourself. In both forms, there is love. In both forms, there is a response. But remember, the universe speaks its own language. It's symbolic, archetypal, poetic. It doesn't communicate in straight lines, but in spirals. It doesn't give your ego what it wants, but your soul what it truly needs, and that is always enough, more than enough. When you grasp this, you stop measuring life by outside achievements and begin to measure it by depth, growth, and alignment with your true self. That's when a deeper, braver question emerges, not, what do I want, but why am I asking for this? What purpose does it serve? Who is it for? This question shifts everything because it moves your focus from the small self to the universal self. And in that shift, your energy multiplies. The universe answers. When you ask for love, for healing, to serve, to shine, not just for yourself, but for the world, you align with the creative flow of the cosmos. And in that alignment, nothing is denied to you, because you become part of what you're asking for. You are the very answer to your own prayer. That's why so many great masters throughout history didn't ask for wealth or trophies, but for clarity and compassion. They understood these are the true gateways. Once opened, everything else follows. And right here, right now, you stand before that same gateway. You don't need to understand everything or be ready for everything. You only need to say yes, a quiet, yet absolute yes. A yes that settles into your cells, your blood, the subtle field around you, because this yes ignites something. It's like lighting a bonfire in the middle of a forest. Signs begin to appear, alliances form, the invisible starts moving toward you, and there's no turning back. Because once you ask with your soul begins to respond. You'll notice shifts in your dreams, your emotions, your relationships. Some people will leave, others will come. Some doors close forever, and others you didn't even know existed open gently. And it all makes sense, because you've changed. Because by asking with truth, you've already set yourself in motion. You've told the universe, I'm ready to be who I came to be. And that's what truly matters, not what you achieve, but who you become along the way. Every genuine request is a mirror. When you look into it, you don't see who you are now, but who you can become. And once you glimpse that vision, it can never be forgotten. So keep going, ask with courage, give thanks consistently, walk in faith, and always remember, you are part of the mystery. You are the sound within silence, the light within the invisible, the echo of the eternal. And when your heart beats in sync with the heart of the universe, miracles don't come from outside, they bloom from within, like a flower that's always been there, just waiting for the right moment to open. And in that quiet blossoming, you'll understand, it was never about conquering the world, but about conquering yourself. Every desire you projected outward was really a reflection of a part inside asking to be seen, embraced, and reintegrated. True asking is a journey inward, not a movement outward. Because what you seek has always been waiting for you in the temple of your own being. Jung said the soul is a vast territory, full of forgotten symbols and sleeping gods. When you dare to walk that territory, inviting those neglected parts into your prayer, everything changes. Fear stops being the enemy, doubt becomes the teacher, failure the initiator. Every part of you, even those you thought were obstacles, turns into an ally in the process of manifesting. That's why when you ask, you need to listen deeply. Feel the echo of your own voice before sending it out into the universe. What does that voice really want? Where does it speak from? Is it trying to soothe a wound or express a truth? Does it come from fear of loss or desire to create? Because the universe doesn't respond to noise, it answers the precise tone of your sincerity. At this point, asking becomes a ritual. True or false, it demands presence. It's not enough to just think about what you want. You must inhabit your body, let the request spread through your skin, your eyes, your breath. Ask as if you're dancing, praying, making love to your own destiny. Because asking with your body is remembering that you are whole here, alive, and ready to receive. Jung taught there's no transformation without symbolization. A symbol bridges what you feel and what you can't yet say, what you want and what you need. So use images, use soulful words, write your request like poetry. Tell the universe as if telling a sacred story, because deep down, that's exactly what you're doing, narrating the birth of a new chapter in your life. And when your story begins to unfold, it naturally calls forth other stories. People who share your wavelength start to appear. Opportunities that once seemed invisible now come into view. Time itself seems to bend in harmony with your own inner rhythm, not because the world around you changed, but because you shifted the way you see it. You'll notice synchronicity increasing not by accident, but because you've become more open, more in tune. It's like you finally tuned into a radio station that's always been broadcasting, but you just couldn't hear it before. This station speaks in metaphors, in unexpected meetings, in books that fall into your hands, in songs that say exactly what your heart needed to hear. This is the dance of manifestation, a delicate balance between what you can see and what remains unseen, between wanting and trusting, between planning and allowing. The soul flows best when you stop trying to control every step, when you let life guide you, when you exchange effort for flow and fear for faith. And then, without warning, what you asked for or something even deeper arrives. Maybe not as a loud, triumphant explosion, but as a gentle breeze touching your face, a feeling of wholeness you can't quite explain. In that moment, you realize the world hasn't changed, you have. And right there, everything begins again, because fulfilling one desire simply gives birth to another. But now, you don't wish the way you used to. You wish with awareness, with responsibility, with reverence. And this kind of wishing is a gift in itself, a sacred offering. So, never stop asking, but ask as if you're praying, as if you're talking to an old friend, as if you're planting a tree whose fruits you may never taste, but you know it must exist, because the real power of your requests isn't in what they bring to your life, but in what they reveal about who you are. And if doubt ever creeps in, and it will, remember, even doubt has its place on this journey. Even silence, delay, and the absence of obvious answers are part of the invisible orchestra guiding your soul's movements. Keep going, even when everything seems stuck. Keep going, because the universe is always listening. The answers may not come in the way you expect, but they will come in the way your soul truly needs. And perhaps, in the end, the greatest miracle isn't seeing your wishes fulfilled. It's looking back and recognizing who you became by having the courage, the love, and the truth to ask for them in the first place. That's why you're here, not just to ask, but to remember that everything you seek is also seeking you. And in that silent recognition that what you desire is also reaching for you, something inside you breaks open. An old shell cracks, a narrow mold shatters, an identity that no longer serves dissolves. What rises is more than just a desiring being. It's an awakened being, one who understands that every request is, at its core, a mirror reflecting your own spiritual growth. You begin to see that the universe isn't separate from you. There's no distant deity judging your wishes by mysterious rules. Instead, there is a loving, living intelligence pulsating through you, expressing itself through your purest desires, in its own time, and in ways you often only recognize after the veil of expectation falls away. At this point, the soul grasps something essential. It's not about controlling the flow anymore, but learning to dance with it. It's not about forcing your will on the universe, but discovering the deeper purpose already written in your heart. Because when you align with that purpose, asking ceases to be a struggle and becomes a resonance. Resonating with the universe is like hearing a song that's always been playing, but now, finally, you can dance to it. Your steps feel natural, your movements intentional, your desires pure. There's no rush, no fear of not receiving, because every fiber of your being knows that what's truly yours will come, and what doesn't come isn't loss, it's protection. Jung taught that a true master isn't one who gets all their desires fulfilled, but one who knows which desires truly deserve fulfillment. This wisdom arises only from silence, deep listening, and intimate contact with the self. So, the practice of asking becomes more and more about refining your desires, shedding the layers that try to convince you that you need something outside yourself to be whole. Then a new desire emerges, the desire to serve, to share what you've discovered, to help others remember their own power. Because when you experience the strength of conscious asking, it becomes impossible not to want others to tap into this force too. You become a beacon, a mirror, a path. And this is when life reveals itself in its fullest form. Everything begins to flow with a clear sense of purpose. Even challenges take on meaning, and no turns into a compass. Every experience becomes material for your growth, every pain an invitation to more truth. You learn to honor time, not as an enemy, but as an ally. You trust pauses, cycles, and repetitions. You understand that nothing is ever truly lost, that every intention launched with love and truth finds its way home, even if it takes time, even if what you asked for comes in a different way. Even if in the end you realize that what you asked for was only the first step towards something much bigger. And in this flow, you learn to live like an oracle. Every moment becomes a message, every meeting a revelation. The universe stops being just a backdrop and becomes a participant. You and the universe are no longer on opposite sides of the asking. Together, you co-author a story that unfolds with every action, every silence, every choice. Asking then becomes a remembering, a return to the original state, where you knew you were part of everything, where nothing was missing, where every separation was just an illusion. That's why the truest requests deep down aren't about getting something new, but about returning to simplicity, clarity, and trust. And even when your mind doubts from time to time, because it's been trained to, your heart stays steady. A certainty that doesn't need proof, a faith that doesn't depend on outcomes. It's the trust of someone who's already witnessed life's miracles in small things, in a stranger's glance, the warmth of a hug, the silence that suddenly makes sense. This is the real miracle, living so that every request, every word, every silence is in tune with the universe's secret song. Being a finely tuned instrument of something greater, a river that doesn't fight the current but trusts the ocean's destination. And now that you know, now that you feel what you want to ask for, ask, but ask like someone lighting a flame, tending a garden, writing a letter to infinity. Because in the end, everything you ask with love, clarity, and presence is already yours. It just waits for the right time to bloom. And so, in that fertile soil you yourself prepared with silence, intention, and surrender, the invisible begins to take root. Maybe you won't see the sprouts right away. Maybe what grows first is patience, inner strength, and trust. Because before the universe gives you what you asked for, it gives you what you need to hold it. This is one of the great mysteries Jung sensed so clearly. The universe isn't just interested in giving you things, it's committed to making you someone capable of holding what you ask for. Because wishes fulfilled without inner strength become a burden. But when you're ready, they turn into blessings that overflow. That's why so many requests take time, not as punishment, but as care. Life doesn't want to hurt you with something you're not ready to carry. It waits for you to grow, to remember, to strengthen yourself. And that waiting time, so often rejected and rushed through, is often the most sacred time. It's there that the alchemy happens. While you wait, something recalibrates. You start to see that asking isn't weakness, it's courage, because it takes courage to admit something is missing, courage to wish with honesty, courage to stay vulnerable in the face of uncertainty. And that vulnerability, far from being weakness, is the gateway to power. Jung said the soul shows itself in cracks and gaps on the edges of what's known. That's where authentic asking is born, at the limits of reason, in the quiet space where the mind falls silent and the heart speaks. When you let your soul wish, you make room for something new to enter, something your mind might never have dared to imagine. And when that happens, the universe doesn't just listen, it answers with beauty, precision, and artistry, because the universe itself is an artist, and every conscious request is an invitation for it to paint your life with new colors, new shapes, new possibilities. But beware, the beauty of the answer is often disguised. It can come as a painful ending, an unexpected absence, a shift. Yet in every break, there's a hidden new beginning. In every emptiness, a fresh space ready to be filled. So when you ask, don't cling to a specific outcome or image. Make space for the universe to surprise you, because it always has something better than you imagine, something more aligned with who you are becoming, something that might not satisfy your ego but deeply nourishes your soul. And when the soul is nourished, it shines. And this light is not just yours, it illuminates others. It inspires, it invites. You effortlessly become a living reminder that it's possible to live with meaning, truth, and connection, that it's possible to ask and receive not as someone needy, but as someone awakened. In this state, every act you make becomes an extension of your asking, your way of looking, speaking, and touching the world. All of this carries the vibration of your deepest desire. And the universe responds not only to your words, but to what you radiate, to who you are. So ask yourself, am I vibrating while I ask? Am I sending out scarcity or confidence? Am I stuck trying to convince the universe, or am I at peace knowing it's already heard me? These questions are keys. They open doors inside you that you didn't even know existed. And through these doors, miracles enter, not as isolated magic events, but as natural fruits of a life lived in alignment. And at this point, you understand, you're no longer asking to fill a void. You're asking to express your essence, to serve life, to dance your truth on the world's stage. And this dance, when done with an open heart, steady feet, and wide eyes, is irresistible. It's what attracts, it's what manifests. Because the universe, like every creative intelligence, responds to beauty. And there's no greater beauty than someone living in harmony with their soul. So keep going, keep asking, dancing, trusting. And when fear comes back, because it will, sit with it. Look it in the eyes, thank it, and then ask again with more love, more presence, more truth. Because every time you ask from the heart, the universe listens with its heart. And in that invisible meeting, everything changes. Not because you force it, but because you allow it, because you surrender, because you remember. In the end, it all comes down to this: remembering who you truly are and living from that place. Everything else, absolutely everything, flows naturally as a result. When this remembrance settles in, not just as an idea, but as a living experience, something inside you shifts and realigns for good. It's like a quiet compass in your chest starts pointing toward your true north again. With this reunion, asking for what you need becomes natural, inevitable, like breathing, like loving, like simply being. You no longer have to plead or convince the universe. Instead, you enter a conversation, a collaboration. You coexist with the invisible forces around you, as if they were old friends who've always been nearby, just waiting for you to finally notice them. Carl Jung spoke of individuation, the soul's journey to become who it really is, and said it requires passing through the fire of consciousness. Asking with true intention is exactly that fire, because when you deeply desire something, you come face to face with all the parts of yourself that still believe you don't deserve it, can't have it, or aren't capable. And that's where the real journey begins. Each honest request becomes a mirror reflecting the gap between who you are now and who you need to become to receive what you want. That gap isn't punishment. It's a call to grow, to expand, to come back to your wholeness. Once you understand this, the act of asking turns sacred. You start to purify your intentions, learning to tell apart ego-driven wishes from soulful callings. Every time you ask from your soul, something inside tunes into a higher, clearer, more authentic frequency. That alignment is the true miracle. From there, everything unfolds with more ease, not without effort, but with purpose. You're no longer forcing life, you're flowing with it, and that changes everything. What once seemed random coincidences become confirmations, tiny sparks of certainty along your path, a glance, a message, a sudden intuition appearing out of nowhere. All of this becomes part of the dialogue, part of the answer. And you listen, not just with your ears, but with your whole body, your skin, your heart. Because now you know answers don't always come as an immediate yes. Sometimes they show up as lessons, delays, or necessary passages. Yet still, they are answers. Still, they are love. The universe, when it responds, isn't concerned with your fleeting comfort. It's invested in your eternal truth. It cares not just about what you want, but about who you are becoming. At this stage, you don't ask just for yourself anymore. You ask like someone lighting a candle in the dark, knowing that your light will guide others too. You realize your personal manifestation affects the collective, that when you align, you inspire. This is one of the greatest gifts you can give the world, being so authentically yourself that others feel free to be themselves. This is the field of true abundance, not one measured by possessions, but by overflowing presence, joy, and wholeness. When you ask from this place, you no longer expect to be completed. You ask to share, to grow, to serve. And this is the most powerful prayer of all, that what you desire transforms you, that in receiving it, you become an even greater instrument of life, that your request becomes a bridge between you and the whole. This prayer never fails because it springs from the self, not the ego. And the self speaks the language of the universe. So, if today a true desire pulses in your chest, honor it. Don't hide it, downplay it, or postpone it. Sit with it. Look at it honestly and ask, where do you come from? What service do you pulse within me? Then listen with your body, your silence, your time. When the answer comes, whether in words, feelings, or images, turn it into a living request, a personal ritual, a commitment to what's most true in you. Because when you ask like this, the universe doesn't hesitate. It moves, conspires, dances. And everything, absolutely everything, begins to happen. It happens not from outside in, as something handed to you, but from inside out, as something that's always been growing within you. Real manifestation isn't a lightning bolt from the sky. It's the birth of the soul, a blossoming that demands presence, courage, and above all, faithfulness to yourself. At this point in your path, you no longer search for instant proof. Anxiety gives way to trust because you've learned to honor the sacred timing of your inner gestation. You know the sweetest fruits are those that ripen in the time of being, not rushing. Jung said true transformation doesn't come from avoiding chaos, but from consciously moving through it. Every sincere request sooner or later leads you into the fertile chaos of self-discovery. To desire something with your soul is to set in motion forces still asleep within you. It summons archetypes, challenges old patterns, breaks narrow identities. That's why when you ask, you must prepare not only to receive, but to reinvent yourself. Often, what blocks your manifestation isn't the world or time, but your attachment to the version of yourself that can't yet live what you desire. That version must die for a new one to be born. This is where asking becomes rebirth, and in that rebirth, what you receive is far more than what you asked for. You gain clarity, wholeness, alignment. You become someone who doesn't just want, but embodies. You walk with the quiet confidence of someone who knows everything true blooms in its own perfect time. And it's from this state that your outer world begins to shift as a reflection of your inner world. Relationships change, environments shift, new opportunities appear, but you're no longer obsessed with outcomes. Because you've come to understand the real miracle isn't what you get, but how your state of being transforms. The greatest manifestation isn't the thing you wanted, but the person you became while consciously desiring it. Even if things don't arrive exactly as you imagined, everything carries meaning. Now your soul recognizes answers beyond the surface. The universe stops being an impersonal mystery. It becomes a lover, an ally, a sensitive reflection of your own energy. You've become a channel, an open field, a living bridge between the seen and unseen. In this space, you create not from need, but from abundance. Not to fill a void, but to celebrate your completeness. Asking turns into an act of gratitude ahead of time, a vote of trust in life's intelligence. This trust frees you from control, rigidity, and heavy expectations. You stop pushing and begin flowing. And in this flow, everything meant for you finds its way gently and gracefully. You learn to move like water, flexible, patient, irresistible. Like water, you find cracks where before you saw walls, because expanded awareness always sees paths where fear saw limits. Then, one ordinary day, Without effort, ritual, or formal intention, you find yourself asking, not for something, but for someone. You wish for another to heal, to remember, to bloom. In that moment, your ego dissolves completely, replaced by true love. This is the peak of the art of asking. When your request becomes a blessing, your voice no longer seeks but offers. Your life turns into a living prayer, a presence, a continuous expression of what is sacred within you. In this state, the universe doesn't just respond. It sings with you. It expresses itself through you. Your very existence becomes an answer to the deepest callings of creation. All that was seeking becomes meeting. All that was longing becomes fulfillment. And everything, absolutely everything, becomes light. And when everything becomes light, it's not a blinding glare or a forceful shine, but a soft clarity, like dawn breaking after a long night, when the world's shapes return to your gaze without rush or demand. This light doesn't come from outside, but from within, slowly ignited at your heart's center, as if your own heart remembered its original purpose. To radiate at this point, asking no longer comes from lack, but from the abundance you recognize within yourself. You no longer say, "I need," but "I choose." You no longer stand before the universe as someone begging, but as one who collaborates, coexists, moves in harmony with the invisible rhythm of things. You begin to realize true manifestation happens in silence, in the pause between one thought and the next, in the fertile stillness of someone who's learned to listen without trying to control. And in that listening, the universe shares its secrets, not in words, but in signs, not in certainties, but in feelings. Jung said the self, that deep core of the psyche, doesn't shout, it whispers. To hear it, you must quiet the noise of ego, hurry, and comparison. You must sit at the edge of your own abyss with humility and say, "I'm ready to remember." And when you remember, something shifts, because the truest asking is born from the soul's memory, from the remembrance of who you already are. In this state of remembering, time dissolves. What once seemed distant and unreachable now feels close and possible, because you're fully present in the only place where miracles can happen. And that miracle doesn't depend on effort, it depends on presence. You finally realize the universe never denied your request. It was just waiting for you to be ready, waiting for you to release those asks born of lack, comparison, and the urgent need to be someone you're not, waiting for your truth to bloom. And now that it has, your requests change. They become simpler, more essential. You desire what nourishes, sustains, and frees. You long for wisdom, peace, true connections, purpose, and above all, to be a channel for all of that in the world. And the more you wish this for others, the more you receive. Because the universe doesn't recognize separation. What you give returns. What you heal in another heals you. What you ask for with an open heart is already moving toward fulfillment, but you're no longer worried about when it will arrive. Why? Because you already feel whole in the process. You recognize the journey itself is the answer, that walking consciously is the blessing, and living with an awakened soul is the highest gift. So, in silence, you keep asking, not with words, but with your actions, the way you see others, how you touch the world, how you welcome yourself. Every breath you take becomes a prayer. Every action turns into a quiet vow of trust in life's mystery. You begin to trust life the way you trust an old friend, steady, reliable, even if unseen. That steady pulse inside you guides, supports, and reconnects you. In this space, everything becomes a sign. A chance encounter with a stranger, a sudden coincidence, an unexpected meeting, a shared silence. Each experience starts to feel like an answer, not just to one isolated wish, but to the ongoing vibration you carry. You realize it's no longer about asking or not asking. It's about living so fully that you become a bridge between the seen and unseen, a clear, open channel. Someone who doesn't just dream, but brings dreams to life with soul. Someone who doesn't just seek, but also gives. You don't just desire, you become. And in that becoming, the universe doesn't just respond, it dances with you. It creates alongside you, breathes through you, because now you are part of it, aware, awake, whole. This, more than anything you could ever ask for, is the most divine form of manifestation. And when you become a conscious part of the universe, something in you changes forever, not like a passing epiphany, but like a deep root growing strong in fertile soil. You start to live with a calmness that doesn't depend on circumstances, with a confidence born from intimate communion with the invisible. Every day becomes an offering, every act a sacred gesture. Looking back, you see that everything you once asked for was simply the path to finding yourself. Even the wishes left unanswered played their role. They taught you patience, built resilience, and shaped your essence. The pain, the waiting, the silence, all made sense. It was all part of the alchemy. And now, when you ask, you no longer expect to be completed by something outside. You ask to express what already overflows within you. There's no more anxiety, only presence, only the desire to align more deeply with what's true inside. Because, in the end, every request is a search for truth, an attempt to become whole. Jung showed us that true healing happens when we embrace all parts of ourselves, not when we reject the unwanted pieces. Similarly, real manifestation happens when we ask from that wholeness, when every word and intention carries both the weight of the soul and the lightness of surrender. You no longer ask to escape pain, but to move through it with dignity. You don't wish to avoid falling, but to learn how to soar on the wings born from vulnerability. You ask for wisdom, not to control, but to walk peacefully into the unknown. You ask for love, not to fill empty spaces, but to share fullness. And the more you live this way, the more life responds, with beauty, synchronicity, and small daily miracles you no longer call coincidence. Because now you know everything is connected, everything is a sign, everything is a response that I in this state. Even the universe's silence stops feeling like absence. It becomes a quiet presence, a peaceful stillness that invites reflection, because not everything needs to be said to be understood. Some answers come like a sigh, others like a breeze, and some simply as a soft, "I am here," felt deep in your chest. And right now, in this moment, you might realize that everything you truly wanted was this: to feel one with life, to sense meaning, order, and love holding everything together. To know your desires weren't ignored, but held by a higher intelligence that knows when, how, and why. And with this understanding comes gratitude, not the kind that waits for rewards, but the kind that simply recognizes. Recognizes the beauty in the journey, the wisdom in pauses, the gift of being alive. You give thanks for everything, even what hasn't arrived yet, because somehow you already have received. And then, in the deepest silence of your being, a final request is born, one that needs no words, only feeling. A request that is at once desire, surrender, and prayer. May I keep remembering, even on dark days, even when doubt creeps in, even when it hurts, that everything is alive, that everything is an answer, that everything is part of the love that created me. May I live with soul, ask with truth, and receive with gratitude. This is the end of one path and the beginning of another. Because conscious asking never truly ends, it transforms. It refines, deepens, expands, becoming part of who you are. And now, this is you, a living prayer, an open channel, an awakened soul. And the universe? The universe listens. It always has, and it always will.